The lonely broad brigade, when they see one of theirs going to the other side and getting a man, then they feel betrayed. Like, no, you're supposed to be lonely like us. You're supposed to be lonely with us. Why are you going and getting a man? You know, the rest of us can't get one.
For British Vogue, I wrote, "This piece is having a boyfriend embarrassing now." I know people have been the headline, they're like, nah, nah, nah. But listen, for this piece, I interviewed a bunch of women. I spoke to them about why they hide their partners on social media, or they like post very inconspicuously about them. You know, some people said it was about privacy and this sort of unique, special privacy that you only afford your romantic partner. A lot of people spoke about the evil eye and this idea that, oh, if I post my partner, then people who are jealous of me will somehow, through their terrible vibes, ruin my relationship. Some people said that they felt as if they were scared to post because what happens when someone comes to them as a woman, or what happens when they break up and they have to, you know, delete all the posts. And there's this whole feeling of like shame of having tried and failed to find love. And then there was a really interesting point that came across both people in relationships and single people. And this idea that like being in a relationship with a man and showcasing it to the world in and of itself was an embarrassing thing to do. And that's what I really wanted to get into. There was this idea of there not being a solidarity with other women. There was this idea of like a relationship just by default being something that rendered you quite uncool. I spoke about this podcast I came across where they were talking about, is it lame to have a boyfriend? And they say, you know, when I meet a girl and she has a boyfriend, I automatically just kind of put her in a box or in a category, and I just don't feel as inspired or engaged by her. And then when someone doesn't, I feel like they have so much life and prospect and they are just entertaining and fun, and I kind of feel empowered by their individualism.
Imagine men saying this very same thing. It's embarrassing to have a girlfriend. It's embarrassing to have a wife. You know exactly what these broads would say? Oh, he's gay. That's exactly what they would say. They would say that he's a homosexual. So I'm going to give that same exact response. Are y'all lesbians? And if so, just say that. I'm so sick of these closeted lesbians getting out here and trying to on heterosexual relationships when it's like, you don't even want that. You want to be with a bunch of other broads. And we've watched enough of that decenter men content on this channel that we can peep game. A lot of these broads are closeted lesbianists. Okay, they're lesbianas. They're hiding behind this idea of, well, we just want to decenter men and to promote their lesbianism. There are enough lesbians in the world. You don't have to try to recruit. And I'll be honest, anyone who can be recruited was already a lesbian to begin with. If you are truly decentered from men, if you are truly done with men, stop talking about them. Being done with something is indifference. It means you're not thinking about them, you're not talking about them, you're not making your whole identity about how you don't like men or about how you're avoiding men. No, indifference means you're literally just indifferent. You're going about your life. You don't even have to mention men. So a lot of these decenter men, women, you know, because there are some simpity simp men that will be like, yeah, you should decenter men, because they think parroting these points is going to get one of these decenter men broads into his bed. What they're doing is infiltrating a conversation that has nothing to do with them. Us heterosexuals, okay, we want to mingle. Okay, if we're single, we're trying to mingle with other heterosexuals. And see, some of these women, they've just had such bad luck, okay, because I don't think it has anything to do with luck. I think it has everything to do with who these people are. You know, as women, they get out on their social media and say what they not finna do for a man, and then they get shocked that men don't want them. You know, a lot of times they're just such failures in their dating life. They feel like the only thing they can do is turn to women. Or what the other part of this is, they'll be such failures in their dating life that rather than acknowledging that, hey, maybe I'm just not a good person, maybe I'm not ready to date, I need to work on myself before I go back into the dating market, maybe I need to choose better, maybe this, that, and the third, whoop-de-whoop. Instead of being reflective, it's just like, men are bad. It's embarrassing. They want to convince other women who are in relationships that it's embarrassing to have a boyfriend because they themselves can't get a boyfriend. So rather than just being like, hey, you know, I feel vulnerable, I'm sad that I can't have a boyfriend, that I don't have a boyfriend. No, it's, well, having a boyfriend is embarrassing. It's very childish. A lot of these broads are childish because this is the same you will see in like elementary schools and middle schools and possibly even high schools where a student will have something that they like that is for them. Another kid doesn't have that, wishes they had that. And rather than just being like, yeah, I wish I had that, that's cool, they'll be like, it's ugly, or they'll make fun of it. Why? Because deep down inside, that's what they truly want. So this is what's happening. These broads, they truly do want a boyfriend. Because they can't get one, they're gonna sit over here and shame those that do have a boyfriend and say, yeah, it's embarrassing that you have a boyfriend. They want to basically propagandize other women into not having relationships because misery loves company. These broads just can't be miserable in their own. No, they want to try to convince a bunch of other broads to be miserable with them because they believe that if we can delude enough women into thinking that being alone is a flex, then maybe we might start to feel like it's a flex in ourselves. Are you telling us this to convince us, or are you telling this to convince yourself? And I think that they believe if they convince enough women to get on board with this nonsense, that having a boyfriend, being in a relationship is embarrassing, then maybe deep down inside they'll feel a little less ick about being a lonely, bitter broad. But that's not how it works. You're gonna do all this and you're still gonna look at the couples that are happy, that are, flaunting their relationships online, not afraid to show their loving nature towards one another, and you're still going to be an envious little broad because deep down inside, that's what you truly want. And you can try to mask that as much as you want. Mask away. But guess what? Underneath that mask are those real feelings. That feeling of longing for the touch of another, specifically the touch of a man.
Interestingly, the girls talking about this on the podcast, agreeing with this idea that like girls without boyfriends are cool, are also in relationships themselves. And so I was thinking so much about how it is very uncool to be a boyfriend girl. It is very uncool to be a my man person. And I spoke to both just people who are on social, but also content creators and influencers about what happens when they post their partners, right? A lot of them lose a lot of followers, especially if they were already single. And this idea that now you are someone's girlfriend and you're posting about this is something that people automatically disengage from. I do it.
There are reasons why people will unfollow you. There are men that will follow a woman content creator because they think she's fine and they want to try to, they trying to ease their way in, right? They'll leave a lot of comments, gassing her up, all of this. And then they find out that she's in a relationship and then they're like, oh, I guess I can't have a chance with that. And then they'll unsubscribe. As far as like women, it's just like the fat phobia people. When one of these fat phobia people loses the weight, they get to a healthy body weight. The next thing you know, oh, she's a fake bitch. And they're unfollowing because she's no longer just like them, overweight. It's the same thing. Okay, the lonely broad brigade, when they see one of their lonely broad brigraders, or I don't even know if that's a word. When they see one of theirs going to the other side and getting a man, then they feel betrayed. Like, no, you're supposed to be lonely like us. You're supposed to be lonely with us. Why are you going and getting a man? You know, the rest of us can't get one. And that's why they will unsubscribe. And then I do want to touch on this idea that she mentioned a little bit earlier in this section of the clip. Oh, well, you had a lot of women that were in relationships and they had the same sentiment. And let me tell you, the reason why is because the grass is always greener. What these broads will do, and this is the reason why I have such a gripe with social media, people always post fantasy lifestyles. They don't tell you the truth. So these broads, they'll go out for drinks all the time. They'll be out and about all the time. They'll post pictures of it, videos of it, and they'll be like, yeah, look at me in my single life. I'm just living my best life. But what they're not going to show you is them crying themselves to sleep. What they're not going to show you is them doom scrolling relationship content, wishing that a man would look at them that way. They're not going to show you that. What they'll show you are the highlights to make it look good. And what's crazy is that even while they're out there on the town, they're probably sitting there hoping that a man will approach them so that they can start a relationship, so that they can have somebody to talk to, so that they have an option of a man that might actually take them seriously one day. They'll show you the cute little pictures of them holding their drinks and, the little leg picture that they like to show. They'll show all that, but then they won't show you the rest, where they're lonely, where when they're having a bad day, they have nobody to talk to. They try to call their girlfriend. Their girlfriend is busy because she's out doing the same thing that they were doing when they were taking those pictures. Just a bunch of flexing nothing. They're not going to show you all the nights that they go to sleep crying. They're not going to show you all of that. What they'll show you is this nightlife life. These women that are in relationships, they see all of this. Like, oh, she's traveling. She's doing this. She's doing that. You'll see all of that and think, my life is boring. Oh, I need to be single so that I can do that. But see, you're not getting the full picture. future. And the same could be said for relationships. Relationships are hard work. And when you look at some of these couple channels, they make it seem like everything is so easy and so perfect, and it's not. Relationships are work, okay? They're hard work. Me and Justin, we work our ass off to make this work. There are some things that come easy. There are some things that are difficult. That is what it's like when you're dealing with people. You have to come together and try to make it work. It's not always sunshine and roses, but when it is sunshine and roses, it's so beautiful because you know about all of the despair, all of the obstacles, all of the, moments where you wanted to cry. You notice all of that you've been through, and now you're at a place where everything just seems perfect. Everything just seems in place, and you appreciate it that much more because of everything you've been through with that person. They love you on a deeper level because they've seen you at your worst, and now they're seeing you at a better moment, and you guys can recognize that within each other. Like, I've seen your growth. Because of social media, we don't see any of that. We just see the highlight reels. So you have people on both sides looking like, oh, the grass is greener, oh, the grass is greener. And it's like, it's not always that green. It could be the angle that I'm taking the picture of the grass, why you think it looks so damn green. Social media has really messed up the game. They just think everything should be perfect at all times. And that's not real life. Okay, real life is messy. Real life is ups and downs. It's not the highlight reel.
But this is happening like across the board, and like just culturally, I think a lot of like the days of a man being a prize has really changed. It's really, really, really changed. And obviously this has come from like just the empowerment of single women in general, but also just how the trajectory of men and women are going in completely opposite directions. And now we're having to look at heterosexuality with the political lens that we've looked at other sexualities. And we really have to evaluate, if we are a part of this thing, what does it mean?
Heterosexuality has nothing to do with your politics. You could be heterosexual, be a lefty. You could be heterosexual, be a right-wing person. You could be extremist on either side and be heterosexual. Like, stop trying to conflate the two. See, this is what she's doing. She's trying to make an argument that you having a heterosexual relationship is somehow right-wing propaganda. This is what a lot of them have been alluding to. For instance, with JoJo Siwa, that crazy little broad, as soon as she got a man, and then they're like, oh, look at her. She's doing the pipeline to republicanism. And it's just like, it's not always that deep. They want to make it that deep because, like I said, all of this is propaganda for lesbianism. This heterosexual phobia, while they have the homophobia, this is heterophobia. There is no connection between you being heterosexual and being a lefty or a righty. You're trying to make it a thing. It's not a thing. You can be heterosexual and be a raging lefty. Stop trying to make your sexuality your political affiliation. There are gay dudes, gay women that are hardcore Republicans. Okay, I don't know if I would say conservative, but definitely Republican. Don't try to make it seem like your heterosexuality is somehow Republican. It's not.
It's a really interesting piece. I think people should go and read it and should go and check it out. And I've also found the backlash to it. I think a lot of women in relationships will say, well, I hate all men apart from my man. He is a feminist and he is a this and he is a that, and I shouldn't feel embarrassed and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, I think we have to be honest with ourselves. If people want to scream like, men are trash, I hate all men, men are trash, I hate all men, and then you shack up with a man and you're like, but not my man though, and someone says that's embarrassing, this is the culture that we've created and we've fostered, right? And so I think a lot of people want to have their pie and eat it too. When there's nothing wrong with that, but I just think as we become a lot more critical of heterosexuality, I just think you can't sit comfortably in that anymore, which I personally think is a good thing, because it means that we are like deepening heterosexuality. We're thinking so much more critically about what it is we're engaging in, and we're being conscious about our choices, which I think is important. But yeah, go and read the piece. Sorry to drone on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Shout out to everyone that made it to the end of this video.
LGBTQ propaganda. You being a heterosexual has nothing to do with your politics. We don't need to critically analyze heterosexuality, because guess what? That's the thing that keeps all this going. You're born because of heterosexuality, okay? The fact that we still have people on this planet is due to heterosexuality. So full stop. They want to make it seem like being heterosexual is now being homophobic or phobic of other people. Like, no, this is just a bunch of babble. People who are bitter and lonely, they just want more people to be bitter and lonely like them so that they feel less bitter, less lonely. Because if I can convince a bunch of women to choose to be in my position, then maybe my position isn't so bad. And I'll give you another example. It's not a one-to-one, but it highlights the very same sentiment. I I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, Kanye West, when he came out with his clothing line, everyone was making fun of it because it was very distressed. And I remember seeing an interview where Kanye West basically said, I want to bring fashion to poor people. You might not be able to afford Calvin Klein and Polo Ralph Lauren, all these name brands, but you might have a t-shirt that you can distress. You might have shirts that are already kind of ripped up. And guess what? Now you are fashionable because these major fashion houses are now producing ripped clothing. The style is distressed and you already have something that's distressed. So now I'm bringing fashion to you. Now, the reason why this is similar is because they have this idea of heterosexual relationships and they want that, but because it's unobtainable to them, they're trying to mass produce this idea that being alone and being single is the thing to do. They want to popularize it so that they feel better about having ripped clothes, okay? About having no man, being lonely. They're trying to pull a Kanye, but at least what Kanye was doing was actually helpful. This is not going to benefit anyone because you're not going to be able to mask your loneliness because we are social creatures. If you've seen any of these documentaries about people that get stranded and then they're alone, I think there was even a movie about this with like Tom Hanks where you're alone for an extended amount of time. That is depressing. A lot of people after 2020 were dealing with mental health crisis because they were isolated. We need other people. And I do believe that we need our counterpart. Whether you're a man or a woman, you need your counterpart. All of this is nonsense. Do not feed into this. Having a boyfriend is not embarrassing. Okay, being with a Pookie and Ray Ray, now that's embarrassing. Being with a dusty broad that listens to Shira 7, that's embarrassing. But having a relationship in a general sense is not embarrassing. And do not look at the other side and think the grass is greener. They're just showing you the patch of green grass that they do have. But y'all, I am curious to hear you guys' thoughts down below. Shout out to Blunt Girly. She asked me to review this topic. Here you go, sis. How do you feel about this? Do you think having a boyfriend, girlfriend is embarrassing? Or do you think like me that this is just a bunch of coke? They truly want men in their life. They truly want a boyfriend, but because they can't get one, they want to popularize not having one. If you like the content, like the content. The more you interact with it, the more it gets pushed out into the algorithm. Also, hype the video. I have that function possibly under this video. We'll see after it's uploaded. If you're feeling a little extra generous, the link is in the description to buy me a coffee. Thank you guys so much, and I will see y'all with the next one. Deuces. What?